Hello again, podcasters and YouTubers. This is Nicole coming back at you with another, what I'm calling, and I'm sort of stealing this from Bigger Pockets, just another tip, some tips and tricks that I've learned being an entrepreneur. I talk a lot about real estate. I talk about businesses that you can start and kind of focus on if you're interested in being an entrepreneur but don't know where you should focus your attention or what sort of business that you want to be in. But in this little session, all I want to talk to you about is if you already have a business. So let's just say you've watched one of our previous videos. We tell you some of the steps you should take as you're formulating a business. And I don't know if I've gotten all of the substantive things, but a website, an email address, file for your EIN, register with the state that you're in. Those are sort of key things that you should do when you're starting your own business. Just lay that foundation up front. You need an EIN. You need to be registered with the state that you're located in. And you need a website and an email address and a social media presence, to be totally honest, as you're formulating that business. But I want to spend some time talking to you about another thing that I think is super important. If you've already done those things, one of the next steps I would take before you need it is get a line of credit. I have heard that. I heard it a lot. I've been through a few programs for small business owners. Specifically, it was a Goldman Sachs 10 KSB program that I spent a large amount of time in. And if you want me to talk about that in more detail, let me know. It was a great experience. And one of the things that I took away from that was the need for a line of credit. And I really didn't know what the benefit of a line of credit was. Cash flow's great within my business. For the most part, I have shifted accounting systems a few times, and I will talk on that in another session too. There's a lot of things that you can learn from people who are doing this stuff. So I've switched accounting systems, and with that, my days cash on hand as well as my accounts receivable sort of shifted, right? From like an average 3 to 7 days to about 15, maybe even a little bit more. So as that's kind of changed, that's something to consider. But all in all, cash flow has been great. However, with that, it doesn't mean that an emergency can't happen. It doesn't mean that something could pop up that causes cash flow to be a little bit different for a 30 or 40 day or 60 day period. And for all of us who don't have, millions of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars stashed up, and we have employees to pay and resources to pay and responsibilities to our business, just get a line of credit. Get it before you need it. Do not wait until the day everything hits the fan and then you run out and you try and get a line of credit from a provider, because it's bound to not go well. Get it before you need it. Make sure you've got substantive cash flow, because that's the biggest thing they look for in line of credits. They want to make sure you've got lots of cash flowing into your business, and they base how much you're going to actually be able to receive from them on how much money you are historically having inside of those accounts. So it's super important to manage your cash flow well. And it's also very important to make sure that you go out and you get a line of credit before you need it. Now, you might say, Nicole, what types of where should I go if I'm looking for a line of credit? I mean, I can tell you where I would say not to go maybe, and then just a few places that I believe are really good places to kind of go and review for a line of credit. Specifically the one that I actually use. So when I am thinking of lines of credit, there's a few people or big banks that kind of come to mind. Your Wells Fargo's, your Bank of America's, your PNC's, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? I attempted, when I was in this program and they said, go get one while you don't need it, I attempted to go through Bank of America. And I will tell you that I have started to realize it's not always a great idea to go with these big banks when you're looking for specific things. It was this arduous process, and such that really getting someone to help you and run your credit application, look at your business entity, and kind of review these things. It was an arduous process. I actually never got a person to do it. I talked to a few people on the phone. They asked me a bazillion questions that day on the phone, and then I never got a response, feedback, or follow-up. It was a disaster. So if I were going to say where not to go, I hate to say this, and I'm not going to put everyone in this bucket, but I would strongly discourage, your Bank of America's and your Wells Fargo's. And I hate to put them in a bucket, but I work with Worked with Wells Fargo and Bank of America on various things. Bank of America overall is great. I bank with them. They're one of our business banking partners now. But on getting that line of credit stood up, it was just a disastrous process, and I would strongly discourage people going through it. We're small business owners. We don't have time to sit on the phone with you and answer 100 questions. We want you to give us a place to go do it online, run what you need to run, and then get back to us with an answer. And that's not how it was with Bank of America. I don't know what Wells Fargo's process is, but I've worked with them on a few things, specifically on the real estate side of the house, and it has been a complete disaster. And so that's just someone that I can't recommend. On top of that, they've got questionable practices overall, and for that very reason, I would not encourage anyone go to them. Where would I go? I use American Express. They have a line of credit option available, and that is the one that I partake in. It used to be Cabbage and American Express, I guess, were partnering together. I'm not sure, but now it's exclusively American Express. If you have an American Express credit card or you engage with them in business in other ways, you probably can attest to the same feedback and feeling I have. They're easy to deal with. So I'm not getting paid by American Express to recommend their services, but if you want to pay me, American Express, give me a call. Check me out on YouTube, contact me direct. I own a business, powerbiconsultingservices.com. Don't forget the services at the end.com. Oh, and you can email me, submit a form, contact us that way. There's an email in there, info@powerbiconsultingservices.com. If you want to pay me for recommending you for this sort of service. They're easy to deal with, guys. The process was super straightforward, very seamless. And so I have to encourage them be an option for you in your business. Alternatively, again, I don't normally recommend banks, but when I was doing research around where you should look for lines of credit, there was probably about 4 to 5 entities that popped up frequently in my Google searches, kind of reviewing who's out there to market. So PNC Bank, that was another one that came up. I hold, one loan with this company right now. Seems fairly straightforward. Never had any issues with them, but I don't partner with them a lot, so I don't have a ton of feedback for you on how they operate and function. But they did show up on the list, and so they may be a really good viable option for you to look at for a line of credit. The next ones I don't know much about either, but again, they show up frequently when you're looking for business lines of credit, and that's Blue Line, On Deck, and Fundbox. So again, to kind of recap the ones that sit on the list: American Express, PNC, Blue Vine, On Deck, and Fundbox. So of all of those, I only know about American Express. It was a seamless, fast, easy process to get to, and their loan amounts and lending options are pretty flexible, as well as the credit score that's associated with it as well. So it makes it a lot easier and flexible for people to get in and get their business a line of credit before you need it. Before you need it, get it. It's guaranteed at some point in your business lifespan that you are going to need extra cash and capital. And this is a really great way to get to it. Interest rates are going up right now. So it does kind of put a strain on any loan type. But they have very flexible and very low interest rate options, specifically with American Express when you do 6 months or lower. If you extend the term out a lot further than that, then the interest rates go up. But for 6 months and less, the interest rates are very competitive, nearly free, right? So I would say look at these options. Get a business line of credit after you start a business. It may require you have like a year. I don't know. I've been in business, sort of formulated my business nearly 5 years ago, a little over 5 years ago. So I don't really know what the requirements are. But I'd say maybe after your first year, you've gotten your feet wet, you understand what you're doing, you're generating revenue. Get that line of credit in place. It goes up and down based on your cash and income and cash, all the cash flow components. But at some point you will need it. So that is my tip for today. Hopefully you found this content helpful. So you'll notice that I'm kind of juking and jiving between real estate specific and entrepreneurial specific topics and content. That is very intentional. I want this podcast to just be a learning experience, right? I didn't have anyone to give me a ton of feedback other than just what I'm doing here, podcasts, YouTube, and just watching people day in and day out on these platforms feed me information that I could leverage as I'm kind of taking action and doing things like entrepreneurship, business ownership, real estate, etc. So I hope you enjoyed this session. If you have any questions, if you want me to dig into something a little bit further, drop it in the comment section and I will get to it. This is Nicole signing out.